on some certain things concerning the electoral process in the country. Well, it looks like Nigeria has not seen the end of 2023 general elections as judgments and counter judgments, appeals and counter appeals still exist. The most current being the presidential election. Good enough, the president is not relenting on working out his campaign promises. But the question this morning is, when and how can the democratic process in Nigeria end after the election? Did you get that? When and how can the democratic process in Nigeria end after the election? Sharing his perspectives with us on Nigeria, which way forward on election matters, is Barrister Isidore Udenko. Thank you for your time. Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome, listeners.
So you can also be part of the program if you call 0705 3538 929 or send your contribution now to a WhatsApp number 0705 746 4812. I'm going to read them if I get them. And don't forget the program is streaming live on capitalfm.gov.ng and on our Facebook page. You can send your comments, Capital 929. My name is Bukky Towuru. It's my pleasure to have you join us on another edition of the program. Before we get into the conversation with my guest in the studio, let's quickly take what some of the people who spoke to said about this. There, my guest is here. He will attend to some of the questions raised by the people we spoke with. But let's start this way. Barrister, some of the issues being raised during the February 25 and March 18 elections are electoral fraud and irregularities, which varies from one case to the other. Several other irregularities that people mentioned. Well, can Nigeria's electoral process, if not totally eradicated, minimize the flaws, and how?
Well, if you look at the humongous amounts spent at every election cycle or election year, you begin to wonder, and after that election, you hear monumental rigging, voters apathy, underage voting, and all the malfeasance associated with election. You begin to wonder whether it really worth it. But nevertheless, election, to me, is still the best way of electing people that we should hold responsible for what is going on in the country. Why I say this is that now, after if we get it right with INEC, with the election umpire or ombudsman, as we call them, I think Nigeria will get it right. But so far, to me, the elections so far held, we have not gotten it right with INEC. Maybe we'll go with what people have been suggesting, even INEC themselves, unbundling INEC. I think the responsibility is still huge on INEC.
So it seems like there is a lot actually for INEC to handle, but let's set that aside because We'll go into that unbundling and see what can be taken away from INEC and that responsibility given to a different organ of government existing, not going to be created. So they looked at verification and authentication of documents needed for the election. Whose responsibility is that actually?
That is maybe it is responsibility of INEC.
Sole responsibility.
It is responsibility of INEC.
So if it's INEC, will you also, in your perspective as an offshoot of what is happening now, suggest an opening of that right to the public as well? Like the political parties, probably if this going on now had been done before election, probably the drama Nigeria is experiencing now wouldn't be.
Well, ultimately, the buck ends with INEC. Even if you allow political parties to do it, there must be underhands.
Not even the political parties, other opposing parties.
Even opposing party, if you if you allow opposing party to do that, I don't know the furor it will generate. It's just like giving your enemy hammer to kill you.
So what is happening now?
I think
Other political parties, some have gone to verify and they're coming up with documents and counter document APC saying one, PDP saying one, Labour Party saying one, some other parties joining to but if all of these were actually allowed, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe it will be minimized. Eventually they will, so they don't have access to do this.
What PDP tried to do in Atiku's case, in Tinubu and Atiku applying to the university for authentication of is in law, anybody can do it. It has been the law. If you are,
you never thought that
if you are talking in that regard, it has been the law. You as a private citizen can make inquiries, can ask for deposition. So it has been the law.
So why now?
Maybe the issues thrown up in the election necessitated for that. To me, the issues that are thrown up, because assuming that they didn't go and appeal, they didn't file petition, and they didn't go and appeal, all these issues that are arising, but still there, any person, whether Atiku, whether any party, can as well go there. So saying that the authentication and the verification, why wouldn't it be? You are stating the obvious, because any person in Nigeria can ask for it. Like now, if you know that we have passed Freedom of Information Bill. So facts gotten from such information can be on oath. Deposed in court can be on oath. So any person, is it the certified true copy? You can always apply upon payment of amount of money.
So which one are they dealing with now? Is it the certificate or the swearing on oath? Probably saying that the president lied on the oath. Which one are the parties now challenging?
I think both of them. If it turns out that what the president submitted is false, it means that he has perjured because he's under oath. But if he's not under oath, you cannot hold him.
So of what importance is this to Nigeria as it is now, affecting the ordinary Nigerian on the street who is yearning for the basic amenities and ease of doing things in the country? They just want food, clothing, school, security.
What to me, what they are doing is what they're supposed to do. How it affects the ordinary man on the street is another thing to conjecture, because what they are doing is looking for how to get power. You understand? Whether Atiku, P2B, or they're all desperate. P2B, Atiku, they're all desperate to win at the tribunal, while the incumbent Tinubu and his people are also desperate to get what they have gotten from the people and then from the tribunal. So you can see that it's just the level of everybody wanting to be there. That is what is playing out now. But for an average Nigerian, it's just like where two elephants are fighting. It is the grass that suffer. Unfortunately, I don't know where it will lead us, because whether you ask Tinubu to leave and ask Atiku Abubakar to leave, would what is happening now, like buying fuel at 6.30 and even maybe our naira going at the black market 1,000 plus, will it all of a sudden stop?
And that is the case, because all of them talked about removing fuel subsidy during their campaigns.
Yes, removal of subsidy depends. Everybody has his own way. Some people may have looked at it, okay, I will not remove subsidy, but I will remove subsidy. Let me look at the refining capacity. We have about four refineries in Nigeria. And these 4 refineries are supposed to be refining crude in hundreds of barrels of oil. But are they doing so? Is there, why would we be suffering and smiling in the country? Why would we be what we have, what the nature has endowed us with? Why would we be crying? Why would we be suffering? Why would every time that we talk about petrol, it will just feel cockroach in our stomach? You wonder, has the blessing turned to curse? So it depends on their approach. Tinubu's approach will be first information. The first thing he told us is, this thing gone.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. So we now and we have discovered that it does not just end in saying deal with it. It has bounced back to everybody. It's staring in our face.
But everybody wanted it.
Okay. So that is it. So depending on what the other parties, what they have in mind of removal of subsidy. But at the end of the day, I don't know whether Nigeria will be better for it.
And we also have joining in the conversation now Dr. Evans Woherem, Chairman Digital Africa. Good morning. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So already got some messages from our Facebook page. Ostumba Salati Anabulusi. This your name is one of a kind. Well, it says it will be difficult to win the incumbent president, so let's let the judge decide. Bukky Hamzat say, I beg Atiku and Obi should go and sit down and prepare for 2027. That's in our own perspective. So it will be difficult for Atiku and Obi to win this case because Tinubu has already been declared the president. So he won't step down. For anybody that's from Favor Okobi, Abuja Constant, a regular contributor to this program. At this point, it will be difficult for Atiku and Obi to win this case against the president, even if they have evidence. But I salute their resilience. Nice one. Faith Samuel, it will be very difficult for them to win the case against President Tinubu, but everything is in God's hands. Blessing says, why is a certificate ever born of contention after candidates have taken the oath of office and assumed duty in Nigeria? So I felt too, why should it be now? So let's ask from our guests coming in before. Yes, let's get to Dr. Evans. Let me quickly ask some questions or summarize some of the questions I asked Barrister. Well, some of the issues raised with those elections has to do with authentication, with irregularities, election fraud. I know a lot of people also had problems with why didn't INEC do something about transmitting results electronically. You are in that space. What actually would you be suggesting at this time? Because we're looking at what is the way forward for Nigeria electoral process.
Well, to me, first of all, it's a pity that the elections were not transmitted as was promised to the country. Technologically speaking, there's no reason why it should not have been the case. Elections were carried out, then the election results were supposed to be transmitted to a certain server. Technologically speaking, there is no reason that should not have happened.
But Nigeria has found itself in that space now. Moving forward, for 2027, for example, what should INEC or Nigeria be doing to correct this, so the country does not go back to this sad story?
Well, to me, first of all, where there is a will, there's a way. If the country really wants to make sure that going forward, that it is going to be as specified, that will be the case. Because technically speaking, there's no reason why it should not, have been, the case. Well, going forward, to me, if the elections are carried out, there should also, be all kinds of observers who, at the same time, are looking at the results and are also part of those that are transmitting the result to a certain, place. Then the results, officially speaking, should just be collated and transmitted to the server, where it is then properly, collected and then eventually accounted, for.
Let me ask before we go further. Who are the kind of people, or what suggestion of the class of people are you looking at should be joining INEC in collating and transmitting?
To me, INEC should be there doing the collation. But in order to support what they are doing, in my own opinion, all the political parties, especially the key political parties, should also have their own people. It should be a team work in such a manner that the results that are collected at each that are captured at each of the polling stations should be such that all the members of the other team should be shown what was captured, so that they, in turn, can also transmit what has been captured to a collation, point, either to do, with them or to a central, collection point. But of course, the major work is supposed to be done by INEC. And to me, if INEC realizes that there are other people, other observers, some of which are probably international, observers, but some of these polling stations are also able to look at what they are doing and help in the transmission. I think that will put everybody on guard. So, to me, it's not a technology problem. That's my point. It's not a technology problem. Technically speaking, it can be done. It is possible, to capture all the results of those that have voted, and then transmit that even online, real time.
If I may weigh in, what my colleague has said is just one part. We have to equally address the issue of voter intimidation, because what is collected is after the election, but what happens prior to the election, during the election, and the collation period? If they cannot get what they want at collation center, they can do it through voters intimidation. They make sure that they suppress the voter. That is another aspect. We now look at weak legislation. We have weak legislation. Look at how much, like I said earlier, was spent on procuring technology for all this, including hanging the result on the air. They call it cloud. How much? Billions of naira. Just trickled away on just the basis that the court said that, well, is left for INEC to choose the mode by which it can announce election. Are we babies? They told you that this is the way. We followed them. Money was released. They said that they are 100% to go. At the end of the day, you now say, no, you cannot go this way. There is glitch. There is that.
Okay,
so we have weak legislation until the legislature takes it upon itself to iron out all these greases. But this legislature we have, I wonder whether they can do it, because they are the ones that are benefiting.
Okay, Doctor, my guest and barristers talked about unbundling INEC initially at the start of the conversation. Is that a good suggestion in your own point of view? Because I am also getting some feelers from INEC that it would be better to unbundle some of the roles and responsibilities of INEC towards election. So if you're going to pick some of the roles that you want, well, let's give to another existing government agency that can handle it. What do you look at?
Well, to me, I haven't really made up my mind as to what would be the best. Whether to unbundle INEC would be the best, or whether to leave it as it is. I believe either way, it could still, if the will is there. Because I've always believed that what we need to do to make all the institutions of this country to work very well are there, are known by almost every one of us. What often is lacking most of the time is the will to implement things the way they are supposed, to be implemented. Probably as a result of the fact that some people don't really want it to be implemented in those kind of manners because of what they are gaining from the status quo. So INEC the way it is, if the will is there from the legal point of view, and if the will is there from the point of view of all the institutions that are involved, I believe it is still going to be able to do what it has promised, the country.
Okay, so Barrister, let's take 1 minute to see if we could be able to attend to. There's some school of thought of the opinion that Electoral Act is not the solution, amending or doing anything to it, because when it was passed in 2001, it was revised 2002, 2006, 2010, and finally passed in 2022. All aimed at improving the quality and credibility of elections. But you are saying, both of you are saying that it's about the will. It's not about all of those things that we're looking at. Can we just speak to that as we wrap up?
Well, let me say...
Because election in Kogi is coming up.
Imo Bayelsa, yes. It's combination of the two. You can't lay down one. Because this one gives you the backing. Gives you that teeth to bite. You understand? You cannot stand alone when you say that there may not be need for electoral act. What will give you the backing? So we need the electoral act. We need strong institution like the legislature. They know what to do. Everybody knows what to do. Most of those subsidiary legislation which they move to give INEC power to legislate on it should be contained in the main act itself.
Dr. Evans, let's quickly take your own contribution. If there is a will, there is a way for the country. Is that what you're still standing on, moving forward for Nigeria?
Definitely, that's what I stand on. I believe that almost everything we need to do in this country at all the levels, whether it is the executive, the judiciary, the legislative arms, or whether it's at the federal level or even the state or local government, levels, are known to all of us.
Okay, so we will have to leave the conversation there. Thank you so much for joining us and be part of the conversation this morning. Barrister Isidore Mori and Dr. Evans Woherem, Chairman Digital Africa. The Perspective team is made up of Georgina Amfer, Risakate Jeme, and Sadiq Yaro. My name is Bukky Towuru. Take care of you. See you next Monday.